Welcome to Blunt Advice, the short-form show that delivers cannabis industry insight and information in quick hits to help you operate your cannabis on a higher level. Here are your blunt hosts, Francesca and Mike.
Our clients have a really hard time committing their time and their strategy to social media. You know, it's hard because I get it. It's not like it's fun to plan out what you want to put on social, and it's not like you can have a full-time job as the owner or operator or master grower or, dispensary purchasing manager to also do a full-on social media strategy. It takes a lot.
Well, and I think also there's not immediate gratification.
That's
so
for
you put a
sure.
post out there and you get 2 likes and you're like, oh wow, it's almost like negative.
Yeah, that's so true. And so it's like if you feel that, then you're not going to do it again the following month, and boom,
Right.
There it goes. Any semblance of social media strategy. But yeah, you do need it, unfortunately. The bad news is that you are missing out on a lot of money by neglecting that piece of your business. So today, we are going to give you some blunt advice on exactly how to use social media for better and more sales.
Opportunities.
But before we do that, I want to make sure that we all start on the same page. So go back and listen to episode 4, which is where we did something else with social media, I think the strategy piece.
Right.
So that one's going to be a good piece of information for you to have to start from when listening to this piece. So now that you've listened to episode 4, good job. We are going to give you this blunt advice on social media and sales. First of all, you cannot do sales on social media. All right, it is absolutely illegal for a federally illegal substance to be sold on social media, in particular if you are crossing state lines. You cannot do sales of cannabis in any form, in any way, on social media, full stop.
So is that the end of this episode then? Are we done?
No, we're not done at all. No, because what you can do is use social media to increase your sales.
Opportunities.
Without ever actually selling on social media. So it's about taking social media as a tool in your sales kit, but not making it how you do sales, right?
Right, it's a tool, it's not the everything. It's
Right.
one tool in a toolbox.
Exactly. So there's a number of ways to do that.
Number 1, in my mind, is building your brand.
Yes.
Once your consumers and your customer persona, ideal customer, once they recognize your brand on social and become followers and stay engaged with what you're doing, it becomes a very, very powerful tool to continue to connect with your customers, connect with prospects by building your brand and projecting your brand and what you do for society and for the world at large, whether it's a product or service, what you're bringing to the table and how you're doing it and who your team is and how you do your operations and all those things that are forward facing plus the behind the scenes all build into great social content that can allow your audience to connect with you.
Exactly, because if you think about it, if your brand stands on its authority in the industry, then that's going to drive your social media content. Versus if your brand stands on its transparency in the industry, that's going to be totally different social media content. So make sure that you are putting your brand out there through social media to stay top of mind with existing and new customers, for sure.
Because they're all a source of new pipeline opportunity.
Pipeline opportunities, yes, exactly. But it's not just about building your brand, because there's a lot of ways you can do that. And it gets really self-serving if you get too me. So the other way that you can use social media to increase your opportunities is to educate. So this can come in a number of forms, and it's true no matter what role you have in the industry. If you are a CPA, you should be definitely educating your prospects on, tax code that affects them, so then they see you as the authority and they contact you. If you are a grower and you have a farm, you want to educate people on what you do to make that product so good that people want to ask for it in stores. So you are still driving those sales, but not actually selling.
Yeah, you're certainly increasing your footprint by educating the market.
Yes.
And I think the one thing that I really appreciate is when people are doing that and they're establishing themselves as thought leaders and as industry leaders and as the go-to person for a specific area. They don't have to always be super technical. Sometimes the basic, simple things are really what help to bring people into your sphere, so to speak. Because, that's some of my favorite ones is things that I don't necessarily know a lot about cannabis law, but there's certain people on social media that do a great job of staying out in front of their audience with scenarios and simple definitions that help make me a little bit smarter every day because now I view them as an authority.
Right. And they are the first person you think of when you think of a cannabis attorney. The people that are feeding you these bite-sized pieces of information that teach you something that you hold on to. Right. So yeah, and you're right. It doesn't have to be super technical, especially if your ideal customer is brand new to the industry in any way. You better keep it really simple.
Yeah. So if you're viewed in that perspective, you're certainly going to have access to more conversation with prospects.
Yes. Very good.
You mentioned earlier about it not being all about you and you need to give back. And I think the other part of that is in the whole advocacy part of social media and how you can broadcast the morals and the values and the platforms that your company stands for and that you personally stand for. But it's also a way that you can connect with others that have similar interests, other groups that maybe you don't know of that you can learn about through connections and things like that. So I think that's another very, very strong part of social media, especially in cannabis, that's utilized but probably underutilized in my opinion.
I agree. I think, what is interesting is that I see more attention on advocacy and social justice in cannabis than any other industry because
100%.
You cannot separate cannabis from all of those things. And so you have to already almost be an advocate to be in the cannabis industry. So that's a major point of connection. But go beyond that and think about, in terms of improving your sales on social media through advocacy, you're going to talk about your presence. You're going to make sure that you are using that as a point of connection with your ideal customers. So it may mean a lot to you that cannabis does a lot for people with disabilities. So you're going to invest in programs, in charities, in events that support people with disabilities. You want to share that because it's truly something about you. And if somebody sees that authentically, they'll connect with that, and that deep connection drives more business.
It certainly does. I love that one. Along those lines about driving business, it comes down to also co-marketing.
Ooh.
And so this is one that we really love to see people do, which is, say you're a good example here is I'm a grower, I'm doing a nice drop at a new dispensary in town, put that on social media, tag them, give up their profile, tag each other, all that kind of stuff is a beautiful way to use social media.
Yeah.
And to really pat each other on the back and walk down the growth path together where both companies will benefit and hopefully gain more revenue.
Exactly, because that's what it's all about. And so you want to make sure that you are pumping up both your own audience and then, the person you're co-marketing's audience, because no one grows alone, and we all know that. So definitely use it to tag each other, support each other, amplify each other, co-market for sure. Yep. And that naturally leads to networking. It's called the social media network, people. So definitely use it for networking to help boost your revenue. Because if you connect with the right people, you can completely change the trajectory of your business.
But I would say this, though, pro tip, don't blast out millions of invitations on LinkedIn or leaf wire or whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Like, don't do that. Because that's not networking. That's just harassing. So like, stop
It's
with
so
that.
true. Yeah.
I digress. That's not how you're going to gain new
That's not
access to a
networking.
new pot of gold. I can tell you that.
Right. Right. That's not networking, because networking is a two-way thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we want to touch on next? Awareness.
Yes.
I think awareness is a really strong way to use social media.
It is. It is. What do you mean by awareness, though?
Keeping everyone up to date on what we're doing as a company or what I'm doing in my role as a company. So, I see a lot of this, people are at a show, they'll take some pictures of the show, tag some people at the show, they're traveling, they're at a farm, they're doing different things, they're hosting people at their facility, they're having an off-site team meeting, all those different things that let people know what you're doing, where you are, how you're being active and additive to the community. I love seeing that stuff. And I will tell you, I get jealous. If all of a sudden there's somebody that I admire and I'm like, God damn it, he's at that show. And I was thinking about going there. Like, I'm signing up for next year's show now.
Yeah.
I get like roped in on that.
Absolutely. You know who's really good at that is Grow House Media. They always give me FOMO, which is
Yeah.
an example of co-marketing. Hey, Grow House.
Pro tip.
So, as you can see, even though you're not going to be having transactions on social media, there's certainly ways to use social media as a tool to increase that money.
Yep. Yeah, there sure is. So let's roll this all up and take a couple of quick hits of this blunt advice on how to increase your revenue stream through social media.
Number one, you cannot do sales on social media.
Number two, you can boost your presence in your opportunity pipeline.
Definitely number three, which is making sure that your social aligns with whatever your sales goals are. That keeps it on track and in front of the right people.
And number four, social media needs to be a part of your sales infrastructure. It's not an orphan on the marketing side of the house. It's part of your sales infrastructure.
I love that. All right. Well, we want to hear from you. So make sure you give us some blunt feedback at bluntadvice@infusedmedia.io.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Francesca. And in the time it took you to Google, wait, did daylight savings time actually happen this year? We've given you some blunt advice.